uh, Hangout interview series presented by Solutions IQ. My name is Ajit. I am Senior Agile Consultant with the Solution IQ and part of XP Conference India as a volunteer. And today we have Sriram Suryanarayanan, who is going to talk about finding the designer in you. This is a very interesting talk, which he's going to present in the XP Conference India. If you have any questions related to this topic, you can tweet using the hashtag #XP Conference. A little about XP Conference India 2017 before we go further. This is the third year of the conference, happening on 17th and 18th November this year in Bangalore. Thank you. The two-day conference is structured to highlight top agile technical themes such as software design, XP, CI/CD, BDD, TDD, and DevOps, to name a few of them. To know more about the conference, visit xpconference.in. And yes, you have limited time to grab the early bird offer, which you can avail on xpconference.in website itself. So I would now request Sriram to introduce himself.
Thanks a lot. My name is Sriram, and I work as a design director in IBM IX India. IX stands for Interactive Experiences. I have studied design from National Institute of Design, passed out in 2001, specialized in a domain called New Media. Over the years, I've been working for companies like Human Factors International, Samsung Electronics. We have a R&D division in Bangalore. So I was part of the Make for India products as well as flagship models. And post that, now currently it's been close to around 1.5 years at IBM. I conduct a lot of design thinking workshops, not only within IBM, but also outside IBM. I've been a panelist for various discussion forums. Recently, I think we also started something within IBM, which is having our own design affairs. We invite speakers to our team, and we speak and talk about various topics under user experience or innovation, and other interesting stories from people who are in this field on design. Yeah. So that is a quick introduction about myself. We can definitely collect in LinkedIn as well, if you are interested, that is. Talking about the topic, I'll give a brief summary as to what I was thinking of when I actually chose this as my topic. It's been quite some time for me to come to terms as to whenever I deal with daily objects or with human beings, as to why certain things don't work and why certain things work. So when it comes to human beings, it's important to understand the human psychology, the psyche aspect, which I think plays a crucial part in your day-to-day life. Be it talking to a blue-collar worker like a servant maid or a security guard, or to your friends or to your better parts of life. There's always this feeling that you get that people sometimes respond properly, sometimes they do not understand me. This whole concept of not understanding me comes into it, and you keep pondering as to, why did I get a particular response to a particular question or a reaction that I did. The same thing actually also translates with devices. We are surrounded by devices these days all over, starting from your smartphone to your TV to your laptops to any objects, your refrigerators, microwave, everything you can call. We are surrounded by devices. Sometimes you feel happy using them. There's this emotional delight that you get, and sometimes you feel really irritated if your printer, for example, is not working and you're short of couple of commands, and every time it goes through its own cycle of collecting printouts. It's a very cumbersome task in most of the offices, at least I've seen. So how do we actually make sure that each experience, be it with humans or with devices, is delightful, is meaningful? So that's precisely what I would be speaking on. How probably we can make these experiences or turn these experiences delightful. So I'll pause here, and I'll check if you have any questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's a lovely introduction. And yes, I completely agree with you. We are more surrounded with machines and interfaces nowadays, machines and their interfaces. And we spend more time with a smartphone. Right, that's true. So, the point here is, it's the one interesting fact which I want to understand is, so where should one start if you talk about your topic to find a designer? So what's the first step you would recommend? How
I
do one
think
find a designer in oneself?
I think the first thing is self-introspection. In design circles, we usually use jargons like personas. We use human behavior. We use expectations, motivations, pain points. So to understand oneself, you need to start right from your human behavior. What is it that you seek in life? What are your goals? Or what are your attributes? Because if you're able to understand yourself, you can actually assume, or it's in fact validated, it's a universal truth, that there are lots of people just like you. You are actually a representative set of a huge, larger population who have similar, not same, who have similar human traits or behavior. So once you start understanding, you can jot it down. Probably you can take a sheet of paper, start jotting it down, because we don't. The whole point I see is we never try to understand ourselves. We know something puts off, something is good, but we never put the pain to actually jot it down. If I have to ask someone, can you write down 5 behavioral traits of yourself? Usually they go blank. They say, okay, and they pause. I can actually see the pen is not moving at all. And then they come up with few words, I work hard. Some people say I work smart, but it's all limited to few words. So it's important to first jot down clearly, have a clear thinking of what are your human traits, your behavior. People who know you may not know you completely because they would have just interacted with you for a few years. But if you go back to your past and come to your present, so you have a whole journey that you have traveled. And through those journeys, you will find how you have reacted to certain situations of life, whether you're short-tempered, when do you lose temper, what puts you off. All those things are a good collection of things that you need to know about yourself, so that next time you can avoid it. Similarly, if you have a goal, goals change with stages of life. If you have goals, that would be great. You can put down your goals as well. So what basically I would do is, if I have to know more about myself, I would actually make a persona of myself. I would probably list down what are my needs, my goals, my traits, what motivates me, what are my expectations, not just from my work point of view, but from my life point of view. If I have these things bucketed clearly and defined well, you don't have to do it in one day. It can be over a period of time. You can maintain a diary. You can actually document it. It's just that we just don't put that much effort. We have a great day, we don't record it. We just remember, okay, I got promoted, that's great. Why did we get promoted? Because of XYZ factors that you did, probably was well received. So those human traits or those behaviors need to be well documented. See that you actually take it forward, all the good pieces. Any negative pieces can go for correction if you want. So that's about identity. So identifying yourself is important. That's one part of it. The other part of it is also try to see what the other person, so this happens through observation, which is one of the key traits which almost most human beings have, but it's just that we don't realize it. We sit in a bus stop, we are actually pondering, we are seeing so many things, but we don't observe much. We see that there is this shade, there is this set of people who are sitting there, we just casually observe them. But if we start looking at them, we'll observe set of patterns, then we'll start looking at them and they'll say, okay, you look into a conversation, you try and understand a conversation that's happening, and you'll know what kind of people are around you. What are their human traits? So someone can be a connector kind of a family trait, someone can be a status seeker kind of a family trait, someone is a person who goes after knowledge, someone is a guy who is a utilitarian, who only seeks control in life, and there are some people who are born achievers, who always like to be in that particular segment, be student or a fresh graduate pass out who wants to start his own company, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to observe. It's very important to listen, I believe. Listen to yourself, listen to others. But of course, you have your own decisions that you can make. So as humans, it's very important to also get into these finer nitty-gritties. I'm touching a bit of cognitive psychology here, but I feel as human beings, it's very important for us to understand this underlying subject of psychology. Also, when it comes to psychology, it's about context. At what context is this whole setting being done? So it's crucial what time of the day, what stage of life, when you're doing a particular activity, how do you do it? So if you start understanding the finer nitty-gritties of small things that you do. So for example, each day I go to this office. Each day I see this big door, which it's a very common problem in most of the countries, especially in India. You have a push and you have a handle. It's well documented in various books, but still we haven't learned. So invariably, you actually pull instead of pushing it, because it's a vertical handle, and you have that affordance to actually pull it, and it says push. So you get confused. What do I do? So I've seen most of them actually go blank. They do the exact opposite, not just with doors, but also with elevators, up and down signs. I've taught so many people, if you want to go up, you actually press the up arrow, but they actually press the down arrow. So small things which probably irritates your whole scheme of things which you had planned to do, because you don't understand. So if you actually start understanding humans, you probably will design better products, is what I would say.
Okay, that's a nice one. An example, I would go more towards specific towards the software industry. So what do you say? Let's say if an organization needs to do any kind of, for an organization to do any kind of study on design principles and user experience before they start building a product, and do you think this should be a mandate exercise in any organization who is building products which are user centric and a specific and address specific problems for a user? In this, what are your suggestions on this?
I completely agree to what you just said. When I started way back 12 years back, design, at least in India, was seen as art. People didn't understand what design was, and it was mostly technology centric. People started building great softwares which did lovely things, but only thing is, the only sad part was it was not usable. People didn't know how to use softwares. I still remember the first time I touched the Windows, it said start, and there was this shutdown button or a power off button within start. You never realize that, within start you have a shutdown or a power off button or a logout button. Why would you do that? So what I mean to say is, for every company, it has to be design centric. When I say design centric, it has to be human centric. Around human centric design, you can have a wrapper of, let's say, business and technology. So if you institutionalize design across the company, not just in one department, but across the company, it becomes easier for the company to find meaning to its products. When I say meaning to its products is, I make products which are useful, which are meaningful to all kinds of users. You can have expert users, you have novice users, people who are early adopters, people who are laggards in the whole chain. So it's crucial, I would say, to have a design-centric approach, a human-centric approach, because you start thinking from the intent of a user. So you start understanding from user's point of view, what are his or her pain points. That's where the psychology comes into it. That's why you need to understand others. That's why you need to observe a lot. So once you start doing your data points correctly, when I say data points, like more of research, trying to understand people, humans, how they behave, of that particular target audience that the company is catering to. For example, let's say if it's IRCTC that we are looking at, which is one of the most used websites, I would say, in India, because everyone wants to book train tickets, most of the Indian population. Of course, there are air flights which are cheaper, but still, if I have to see majority of the people in India using IRCTC as an example, you have all kinds of people. You have people who do Tatkal booking, you have people who have no time and they just need to finish the booking very fast, like an express booking. There are people who like to plan with others and explore a package and then come here. So there are different kinds of people, and a software here is being made to cater all of them. Now, if I were IRCTC, I would actually do a proper research. I would try and understand my target audience, my customers. In this case, who is my bulk audience? If it's like people who belong to a particular segment, let's understand that segment. Let's do a proper qualitative research. Try to understand their psyche. Why do people travel? Is it just to meet someone? What are their expectations when they try to book a ticket? Are they anxious? Are they worried? When they are looking for the chart, do they see all the trains that are there? Do I get all the options? Are there some offers, discounts? Is there a package deal that is happening? What are their motivations? Motivations can be a simple offer to book a ticket. Let's say if I book a ticket within like a week's time, I get some points or I get some rewards. That can be a nice motivation to probably book a ticket from this site rather than from X or Y or Z sites. At the same time, is the site trustworthy? Some people are anxious. It's a transaction that is involved. Is it safe? Is my information going to be published everywhere and my card information is going to be leaked? So there's a worry, there's an anxiety. So make sure that there is reassurance there. How do you bring reassurance? How do you bring trust? That's another thing that we need to make sure that the goodwill of the site exists. The other part is the emotional part. When I say emotional part, it's about the delight part. When you feel that you are able to do things without any help, there's a joy of accomplishment. You feel, I have done it. I still remember the first time my mother did a Paytm. It was so simple. She just found it so nice. It was like quick, easy, and instant gratification. She got that. And she had never ever used any other transaction in her life. She's 65 years old. And she did a simple payment to one of the grocers, and it was fast. So certain examples which stand out basically address all these factors. They look into aspects of human behavior. They look at hygiene factors as to how I can solve navigational issues, interaction issues, content issues, presentation issues. How do I look at persuasions techniques? How do I look at the trust techniques, the emotional techniques? How do I make sure that I have a repeat customer? How do I retain my customers? How do I make sure that there are no dropouts? So usually people build their products for only one section of people, one set of people. They don't look at all scenarios. But I would say that if you have one primary persona, definitely design for the primary persona, but do accommodate the secondary personas. So that your site addresses all kinds of people. For example, a person who is in a hurry, help him book a ticket in probably 3 steps or 2 steps. And there are people who love to explore in life, who want to look at different kinds of trains, super fast, yay, whoa. So for them, build a site which allows you to browse, explore, and then there is this serendipitous delight that's stumbling upon that experience, because they have a lot of time in life. So help them. So your site should cater to different kinds of people. Though the task at the end is to book a ticket, there are different ways to do it. So I think we should probably look into all those channels and make sure then only your ROI will come up. Because otherwise people will just say, okay, this is just your perspective. How do I measure the user experience? So you can measure only if you start addressing all these pockets, these gaps. And of course, how do you do it? One way is if you have a great analytics team, a technical team, which can actually show you, these are the points where people are going out. Probably here is where you have to place that hook to persuade, that persona to actually click and go. So if you can guide this experience, then it would be the best thing to happen.
Okay, that's great. So another thing which comes to my mind immediately is if organizations take up this journey, what you mentioned about user-centric or human behavior-centric approach. So what should be the feedback cycles in this? Let's say when we talk about softwares, so softwares always have followed a certain process, which started with the design and development phases, and we have certain phases in that as well. So where do you think this activity should happen when you are designing a product? So where this activity should be incorporated, and how quickly we should visit back to see whether whatever approach we have taken to understand the user personas and user experience, whether we are in the right direction or no, and what techniques we can use to collect this kind of feedback.
Yeah, so great question. So the first thing is start early as possible, right from the inception. So that's what we have seen in the past from my experience, as well as that's how I have seen it I've read it in most of the case studies. So the earlier you incorporate or you start engaging design into your life cycle, the better. Because it's important to understand the vision, the business goals. It's important for a designer or a team of designers, human-centric designers, to know what are the expectations, what is the vision that the company has, who are my target audience, what do they need. If they get that vision clarity early on, it's easier, because they start, because designers work in a multidisciplinary team. They connect with, people who are experts in certain areas, people who have the business sense, people who are domain knowledge specialists. So it's not about just, some people say, designers can come up with great ideas. But one of my friends rightly said, designers cannot create ideas. It's a beautiful thing that he said. Designers are gatekeepers to ideas, because we make sure that the storyline is intact, and we make sure that if an idea doesn't fit in, the designer will eventually know, because he has a lot of backup within him. So he knows what is the vision of the stakeholders. He knows what the customer needs. And so if an idea tries to penetrate in, he knows, these are the barricades. So this idea cannot fit in because it doesn't match the user needs. It doesn't match the stakeholders' vision. So it's very important for us to make sure that design team is involved right at the beginning. Now, once that thing is kind of established, having said that, it's important to test your designs. I will say it's more about formative tests. When I say formative tests, it's fail fast, learn quickly. So the sooner you start testing out your designs, the better for you. You should probably have shorter cycles. You make let's say you have done your research, you have arrived at a particular insight. These are the needs of the customer. This is the needs of the business as well, the stakeholders. Now marrying these two, I have come up with these features, and this is one of the journeys that I think is going to be a killer journey, or a showstopper journey. Now, there's still a hypothesis. We are not sure. We know that based on research findings, this is what I have arrived. This is the structure I have arrived. These are the feature set I have arrived. Do I know this feature set is really true? We can actually check that. One of the simplest way of checking is a categorization tool, which we usually do with our end users. It's called a card sort. When I say card sort, it's again a jargon. So what is card sort? So let's say, again, I'll go to the example of IRCTC. So you have a lot of, you have a big sitemap in place. You have a lot of primary navigation tabs which are placed, and under them you have some XYZ things. Now, how do I know that they have been categorized rightly? I don't know. I've just arrived at it based on research. How do I test it? I can test it with my users. I can provide some cards which has those category labels, subcategory labels, ask them a few questions. If I have to, for example, a question can be like this. It's a scenario usually you give. If I have to book a ticket from here to Darjeeling in a sleeper class with an offer, where do you think I should go? So if I have those group labels, the guy would say probably that or this, and then you will know probably your categorization is working or not. So a simple validation can help you. There are other ways to validate also. We do usability testing, which is again done in, I would say, shorter life cycles. So you develop a few journeys, and then you have task-based scenarios. You test them out with a couple of users, making sure that your users belong to those different personas that you have arrived at. You can't take any random user. So there should be a mapping with the persona. So if you have that set of population to test with, please do the testing. You'll find the insights where you're going wrong, and you can quickly correct it and then redesign it. So it has to be quick. It has to be fast, I would say, quick and dirty types. Low fidelity. Don't invest too much time building a nice, beautiful castle. Just make one small blueprint and test it out. See what other problems they are still facing, so that you can repair it quickly. And it's again cost effective as well, right?
Okay, thanks for that. So another thing is, like you mentioned about one of the jargons, car sort. So what other tools and techniques designers can use for quicker feedback, or let's say constant feedback cycles?
So if it has to be really quick and low cost, people also do a simple survey of a set of close-ended questions with some screens. There is another method called, again, it's a jargon, which is called heuristic evaluation. It sounds very nasty as a word, but what basically heuristics talk about is, it's a set of thumb rule of common sense, I would say. Common sense, when I say, is, let's say I have an interface, and I need to make sure that it's usable. So a team of experts, now this is not done with users, it's done with a team of experts. So when I say experts, people who have spent around 15 years in the industry or 10 years in the industry, let's say a couple of them, they take this interface and start evaluating it against certain benchmark, which are universally accepted. Now, what are these benchmarks? So there's this person who is pretty famous in this field. His name is Jacob Nielsen. And he has defined 10 rules or heuristics. Simple rules can be visibility of system status. Now, what is it? So right now we are having this conversation, and in my Mac, there's this green dot near the camera, which shows that the camera is on. Or for matter, the charger, which I have just inserted to my Mac, and it's just connected to the power. It has a green feedback. Now this feedback is basically the visibility of a system status, that it is on. For that matter, the switches that you have on your room, if you turn it on, there's a feedback that the light is on. So some simple things which make sure that it is working. Other things which are there is consistency and ease of use. So don't, a simple example can be, don't place buttons all around. If you have a next and previous, keep it in a same place so that people know that, it's consistently available there. My expectation is to naturally go and click there. For example, your cross button in a window, it's always placed. If it's a Mac, I think it's the right hand corner. If it's sorry, if it's a Mac, it's a left-hand corner, and if it's Windows, it's a right-hand corner. So certain consistencies are used. So if you use these 10 rules, the basic hygiene is meant. When I say basic hygiene, it's again related to navigation, interaction. Navigation is making sure that you're not lost in your interface. You know where you are and you know how to go back, or you know how to exit out. Interaction is the speed with which you can do a transaction, the speed of selection, the speed of moving from one tab to other or one location to another. Some people use a lot of, when it comes to filling a form, they use a lot of different interactions. Sometimes they use keypad, then they go to mouse, then they go to keypad. So if you can eliminate those kind of to and fro, that's also the speed of interaction increases if you reduce these kind of things. The other thing is presentation. When I say presentation, it's the layout, the branding, the identity part. So that's another thing that we look at when you're doing a heuristic. They are grouped properly. They're grouped based on similarity. If all the actions are in a ribbon, so if you see a PowerPoint or whatever, you'll find these tabs are neatly organized. Under each tab, there's a ribbon which has those tools, so you know where to expect, what to expect. The ribbon design has been a big change from the previous Microsoft suite of applications. Last but not the least is the content, the terminology that's being used. So heuristics also addresses on the terminology part. Jargons, people don't understand. So for example, again, one of the things is NEFT. Now, who understands NEFT transaction? What does it mean for a layman? Okay, they might know the full form, but what does it mean? It's probably just transferring within a day's time. So can you have, if you want to transfer within 24 hours, use this drop down button. If you want to transfer it instantaneously, use this option instead of using IMPS, NEFT, RTGS, blah blah blah. It's not a layman term. People are forced to learn these kind of terminologies. So heuristics looks into all these things. It might be simple, but it can be effective if you start using them. What happens is it's low cost, it's a quick fix, you don't need users, and you can actually score them on scale of a severity. So if 3 people are doing a heuristic, if 3 experts are doing a heuristic, they can score them on the same screen, and then they can come to a consensus. If someone says it's not that a catastrophic kind of a situation or a glitch, someone might say, no, it's not a glitch at all. Someone might say, yeah, it's very important. So you come to a consensus and you rate that problem, but everyone agrees there is some problem. You rate that problem and you come up with a recommendation, not a solution, a recommendation saying that, if it's, for example, the switch, when I click on the switch, nothing happens. There are 10 switches. A simple recommendation can be provide a way of labeling to understand that that particular switch relates to this particular light. So you're not saying that the switch should be colored with red color, green color, it should have L written on it. You're not saying anything. You're just saying provide an indicator. You're just giving a recommendation. And the violation of a heuristic will be visibility of a system status. It's cost effective. It's simple. You can fix the glitch. And it actually will provide you a better footfall in your interfaces that you design for your customers. So this is one other tool which is commonly used. It's a practice that's used in most of the industries. Other tools are you can do quick self-evidency tests. You ask the person to see the interface and see what he looks at first. So there are hotspots you can detect where your eye is moving into. You can do comparative tests. You look at 2 interfaces, check which is better, which is not. So these are the other things that people use at different phases based on, again, effort estimation, based on time, that is mainly, and money. So all these things come in handy when you see which tool should be used. Yeah.
Okay, great. So another thing which I am keen to understand is, I am sure our viewers will also would be, what suggestions you have for us viewers and people who are looking at this video or broadcast. How do we bring back the human aspect using the design principles, or using the concept of like you mentioned, understand yourself, introspect, observe. So how do we incorporate and bring back a human aspect when we talk about building softwares and large systems which runs for might be months or years? How do we keep that human aspect alive?
Yeah, nice one again. So a very simple thing which anyone and everyone can do is it's a simple matrix that you can create. Some people in the industry call it a kind of a journey map. Let's say I'm building a journey map for booking a ticket. The journey map can have three states in the row columns. So one can be so if it's booking a ticket as a scenario or a journey, um, the journey should have phases. So let's say first is a search phase. Then you go through the search results. Then you select a particular result. Then you see, you fill in the result, the dates, and then finally you do XYZ transaction. So there is a phase to a journey. You basically break a journey into chunks or phases. Now each phase, try to list down, or rather not try, but do list down what you're doing. So when you're searching, you're actually typing in Google and you're trying to say what is a keyword that you're putting in. Some people will just put IRCTC and go in. So what you're doing is very crucial. The other part is, what are you thinking? Yeah, when you're typing it, what are you thinking? You're thinking that there may be so many things in your mind. It's my friend's wedding and I need to book this ticket. I hope I have reservations free. So many things are going in your mind, right? You're kind of like thinking so many things when you're doing it. You might also be thinking, by the way, I have a lot of work to complete today. God, when will I do all these things? It's so much work. It's a tough life. You're thinking about all these things when you're actually searching for a particular keyword, which is IRCTC. That's what you're doing, but you're thinking so many other things. And what you're feeling, that's the most important thing. So doing, thinking, feeling. Feeling are emotions. What are you feeling? You're feeling probably a bit restless. You're feeling restless because you have work at hand. You need to book this ticket. It's important. You're not sure about the availability of the ticket. All these things are happening in your mind. Now, this is your current state of mind. And this is just for one phase of the journey. Like this, if I have to break that journey of booking a ticket from, let's say, Bangalore to Delhi, in this case, let's say an air ticket, the first thing probably you would do is maybe check for a site, then go. So those each phase will have doing, thinking, feeling. You will go through your highs and lows. Sometimes you'll be disappointed. Oh my God, the ticket prices are so costly. It's increased. This is madness. You'll feel disgusted there. But you're thinking that. And what you're doing is you're again looking for some other search engine. So this is your as is scenario, you say, your current existing scenario. Anyone can do this because they are the users. They can actually draw this scenario. Any scenario you take it, they can do it. An ideal scenario is when you understand the pain points of doing, thinking, and feeling. You will come up with a whole set, a beautiful set of solutions. People have great ideas. Someone will say, I'll just use this biometric thing. It understands me, my identity. It goes through my calendar schedules. It goes through my patterns of buying. And I'll have to just probably speak and I'll say book tickets. Based on my identification, it will show that I'm a very frugal person. I look for great offers, and it will show me only sites which cater to my kinds of needs. It's like a cool solution. Is it feasible? We don't know. So you might have a huge set of solutions, but you should make sure that all your ideas or whatever that's coming up, solution is the wrong word. All the ideas that you get, idea is the right word. All the ideas that you get for your as a scenario based on your pain points, your emotions, map it in a grid, which is feasibility versus impact. Any idea which is highly feasible or easy to do and it's got great impact, go for it, because it's a no-brainer. They are low-hanging fruits. Just go for it blindly. Ideas which are very tough to implement and which have very low impact, just drop them. You don't need to go for it. So even this, anyone can do it, because if you have some technical knowledge, that it's not feasible, don't go for it. Anything which is feasible, yeah, I can do it, I can implement it, prototype can be done, do it. There are some ideas which come in between. They are neither very easy to implement nor very tough. It comes in between the bracket of feasibility and impact. Those are strategic calls that you need to take. What is it worth it for me to actually invest my time and money in investing in that idea and pursuing it into a solution? So that's the strategic call that we need to take. But otherwise, there's one way to relate the human angle of emotions, feelings to an idea space. I hope I was able to answer it.
Thank you so much. So I have a last one, which is any recommendations or any suggestions from you for good reads in terms of books or articles which people can see and take this journey ahead of finding a designer in themselves?
I would say the biggest learning would be for a starter to start with books like Design of Everyday Things. It's written by Norman. You have a lot of great articles in Medium. I would advise our users to use Medium channel, wherein you can type in keywords, user experience. You'll get a whole array of things which are trending in this particular discipline. You can also look for books like Inmates Are Running the Asylum. That's another great book. I also follow Simon Sinek. If you've gone through his videos, wherein he talks about millennials, he's talking about Start With Why Leaders Eat Last. All those books are great to have. There are tons of white papers which are available in there's ACM, which is Associated Computing Machinery. You can look for great white papers. It's a paid site, but helps you look at CHI papers, wherein people actually write about their research findings about human behavior, about what they have gone through, and how they have converted those research findings into prototypes or solutions. So there are tons of things which probably I can recommend. If you have further particular questions, you can always connect with me in LinkedIn, and we can take it forward. Yeah.
I said that's the last one, but one thing more came up. There is a lot of buzzword nowadays in market going about lean UX. So can you just very quickly help us understand what this is about?
Pardon?
Lean UX. There is a lot of buzzword nowadays going on in market, which is lean UX.
Lean UX.
Yeah,
lean UX. Yeah, it's so in my opinion, lean UX is more about. So in IBM, it's what we do, which probably people might call it as lean UX. So if you type in IBM design thinking, this is for the entire audience. It's freely available. You have a whole bunch of stuff on IBM design thinking and the process that we follow, which is the loop, which is observe, reflect, make. Now, lean UX is part of it. It's pretty agile. It's quick, and it's scalable. That's the main part of it. You don't invest too much just thinking. So people, when I say design thinking, they say let's take a whole 3-4 weeks to just think, and then come up with a design part. So I would in IBM, it's not like that. It's very quick. So it's on a daily basis we do it. So if we have a journey, there's this multidisciplinary team which actually sits in a war room kind of a zone, and the morning we start with design, and end of the day we actually have a kind of a prototype for that particular journey. So it's quick, fast. We test it out So that's why I said the loop. So if you go to IBM design thinking language, we call it a loop because you observe, you reflect, and you make, and then you test it again, and then you again do the same process. So it's quick in that ways. You don't invest too much time, you don't invest too much money in that, and you get the intents converted to outcomes, and it's scalable. That's the best part. It's scalable and it's fast. So this is my understanding of lean UX that we do in IBM. Of course, I stand corrected if I'm wrong.
Thank you so much. I think we would end this session here. Thank you, Sriram, for your very thoughtful and insightful session on how do one starts their journey as a designer, or how do we bring in human touch back in the industry. So all questions can be posted on LinkedIn group, which is XP Conference India, and do register for the conference in Bangalore on 17th and 18th November. We will be back next time with another great speaker. And thank you, Sriram, for your time. It was nice talking to you. Thanks a lot. Bye. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. Take care. Bye.